No matter what part of the galaxy you are from, this is the Party of Two podcast right here on anchor.fm/partyoftwopod, YouTube, or wherever you may be taking in our podcast. I'm one of your hosts, the Internet's Mark B. Donica.
And I am one of your other hosts, the Internet's Andrea Donica.
And we are a theme park podcast. We've been talking a lot about D23. We've been talking a lot about Epcot to a point where maybe we don't do that anymore. but we're rolling through our D23 coverage by telling a little bit of a personal story as well. We're going to be talking about the Halcyon, the cruise liner, the space liner, Chandrila class, what Star Wars. Like I'm a big Star Wars fan, but even so, it's like this is a lot. The Chandrila Star Lines Stair Cruiser, the Halcyon. But that's not all we're going to be talking about, because we were lucky enough to be at opening day of the transports, the Orlando transports to Batuu. And I think that, I mean, there are people who are crazier and probably done the whole thing in 24 hours.
Oh, sure.
But we were able to go to experience Batuu in California first, the weekend of D23, and then that very next week, under 7 days, less than 7 days, so within a week, experience Batuu from the Orlando transport, which is wild. And today, also, speaking of Star Wars news, as of recording this, Disneyland Paris announced that they are going to get some sort of Star Wars something, whether that means Batuu or another planet. I don't think they went too deep. They're just like, hey, Star Wars.
Well, that's not direct at all.
No, but it's a similar thing to what they were doing at D23, to where, hey, a thing. And they gave a little bit more details on the stuff that they already had announced. They gave more information on Avengers Academy. They gave a little bit more information on Arendelle. The Marvel Hotel was a big talking point. And I remember when it was announced back in 2017, everybody was like super down for it. Because the New York hotel the New York themed hotel in Paris, one of the nicer hotels on the property, and now
they were all nice. Everything was nice.
Add a little bit of Marvel sizzle on that, you got yourself a good time. Yeah. But speaking of a good time, you got to head on down to Batuu, y'all, and enjoy all of the sweet, sweet foods. Well, Andrea, I'll ask you. Do you want to talk about the Halcyon first, or do you want to give a little bit of a story of our experiences in Batuu?
Let's start with Batuu, and then we'll kind of end things towards the future. How about that?
Sure. So one of the things that frustrated us about our new living situation was the fact that we had waited years, a lifetime, you might say, to having Star Wars just down the street. And the last month, or Disneyland just down the way, and the last month before Galaxy's Edge opened up at Disneyland, time to move. We got to wait just a little while longer. We're going to be getting one too, but terrible, awful. I will say, I avoided spoilers like the plague,
and it was hard.
We did we did a couple of shows based on the big press reveal where they talked about all of the food and the experiences and this and that. But other than that, I didn't want to see pictures. I didn't want to see like live. I mean, we saw concepts. We saw like the official picture releases, but I didn't want to see anything in the Millennium Falcon queue. I didn't want to see what the restaurants look like with Droid Depot. I don't want to see what anything looked like from first person experience. And I feel like I was pretty successful. You, on the other hand.
I couldn't avoid it. I mean, I was on the internet and, I was trying to just interact with Diz Twitter and make more friends, and just left, right, and center. It was everywhere. I tried to go onto the Disney Parks blog to look at something else. And of course, what image is blown into like the biggest high resolution in their bookmarks area? It was a giant inside photo of Hondo in the Millennium Falcon or in the load station, whatever. But I was just like, no, my eyes. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was just like, man, like I tried, but it was next to impossible to avoid everything. And the weird thing for me was that I didn't necessarily go into any of this wanting to avoid photos or pictures. And that was why I was so keen on looking at all the press releases for the food and every little detail we could get, because we were under the impression that we were going to go
within the first little bit.
Yeah.
And especially before all of the crowd, quote, issues started to arise. We were like, we're going to brave the storm. We're going to make sure that we go through, because this is an IP that we've been fans of for a very long time, a world that we've been fans of for a very long time and identify with. So more so than just being among the first people to walk through the gates, we wanted to experience it. We wanted to feel what it was like to be in the Star Wars.
Forever. I mean, I grew up on Star Wars. My favorite movie as a kid, just all the time. I would turn on my recording of Return of the Jedi. I had my lightsabers at home, and I demolished all of them. Those cheap plastic things, even with the rad sound effects, they were not strong. And I was quite passionate. And suddenly, us having to move right the month before it was going to open was just... ugh.
And now even in just saying, I grew up with Star Wars, ours is a generation that grew up with the prequels coming out in theaters, and so a lot of people can say that they grew up with Star Wars, but you're somebody that had, safe to say, most of the action figures.
Oh yeah. Like, I had pretty much everything, and my mother bought duplicates so that there would be one that I could play with, and then one that stayed in its packaging,
mint on card,
nice and safe, as a valuable heirloom.
There's a lot of stuff that I just remember. Now, as a young man, venturing into a girl's bedroom is an interesting thing. And then looking on your bookshelf, and the thing that struck me the most, and the thing that's sticking out in my mind, is Force Ghost Ben Kenobi.
Yeah,
that was like one of the front and center ones. But you just had an army. Now imagine, if you will, like the Kenners or the Kenner style Star Wars figures. Now imagine those like uncomfortably close together. You probably had like a 12 deep row and maybe an 8 to 9 across, maybe no more, maybe 15 across, and they were packed.
I mean, I packed them as much as I could.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So all of you probably had the whole bloody set on there before we started getting into the Black series and the this and the that.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot in your childhood that you grew up on Star Wars, not with Star Wars. I would say on Star Wars, like it's a drug.
Yeah, kind of.
And me, I was one that watched the movies every other weekend. I remember a time in my childhood where I watched Return of the Jedi every Saturday, and it just kept going and going and going and going. Eventually, there was a time when I hosted a Star Wars podcast, and that did a lot to help sort of deepen my understanding and love for the series. Go beyond movies. Go beyond TV shows, reading a lot of the books. I don't want to say all of the books.
There's a lot.
And there's still a couple on our shelves that I've had from that time where I was like, I should read that. But there are people who don't know that this isn't Hondo's first ride. There are people who see some of the stuff around, people that don't know where the green milk is from. There are people that go and just like, hey, a Star Wars. I remember this from when I was a children. And they go and they have a good time.
Yeah.
And then there's the folks like us. There's the folks like our friends Ken Knapsack, Joseph Scrimshaw, the fine folks at Force Center, and all of the wonderful people beyond that go and they see the tiny stuff. They see the little references. They go into Doc Ondar's deck of antiquities and they go, I know exactly what that is, that is, that is, that is, that is, and that is. And the people who freak out over the basic wick stuff. I was trying to think of a term for basic B, but it didn't work out. I was just trying to go on the fly. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that Galaxy's Edge is something for everybody, whether you know the Star Wars universe or not, whether you are deep into the lore, whether you first saw Honda Onaka grace your screens on the Clone Wars television series, on the Rebels television series, in the recent books where he was not gifted, but made responsible for the Millennium Falcon, which sort of leads into the story for Smuggler's Run. Whether you know who Vi Marati is as she's running across, that, like, what her exact role is in the Resistance, or you just go, oh, somebody's cosplaying. It's so rad. It's beyond rad.
It's incredible.
For people who haven't had an opportunity to go yet, you gotta. Well, actually, it's not that bad because there's a couple of months until Rise of the Resistance starts to open up at the through the various ports. Whether you're traveling to Batuu through the Anaheim spaceport or the Orlando spaceport, you don't have that much time to really enjoy. And the rumor is right now that nothing can be trusted. Really, no numbers, no figures, no nothing. But once Rise of the Resistance opens, that's when the attendance is really going to start to kick up.
I really think that that's when things are going to go crazy. And I think just in general, a lot of people have been planning their holiday vacation because maybe they like to go to Walt Disney World around Christmas time. And that's, I'm sure, really why Disney World really wanted to get Rise of the Resistance open as soon as possible for December so that they could not disappoint as many guests that were going to be making these big plans to come all the way out for their holiday trip. And it's probably going to be a little crazy, and I'm here for it. I think it's earned it. And what has blown my mind about the fan community, because both Diz Twitter and Star Wars fans can be very toxic. They have been crapping all over Galaxy's Edge and calling it a failure. And it just really makes me scratch my head because personally, I don't want to be stuck in a line for 4, 6, 8 hours. Like, that's not fun. It's not enjoyable. So when I see, 60 minutes, 85 minutes during a weekday, 30 minutes sometimes, that tells me that the ride is running effectively and that the rest of the park is running effectively and properly absorbing guests.
The only other ride or experience that tends to operate at that level of efficiency is an Omnimover ride, where the ride doesn't stop. And I'm not necessarily at the point where I'm looking at building blueprints and things like that, but regardless, the ride system for Smuggler's Run seems to be very efficient. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff that's behind sight lines. You don't know when stuff's moving, when it's not. Ultimately, you're in the Millennium Falcon cockpit. For all intents and purposes, they magic you to feel like you are in the entirety of the ship, and that's amazing. And so we've been around some Diz Twitter folks, and there's some dissent. And I mean, being a D23, there's a lot of dissent surrounding Bob Chapek, and we've talked about him for the past couple of weeks as we've been talking about D23. But when he's set free, when he doesn't have a script, you tend to go, that's why he has this job. Mm-hmm. It's not that he can read a script. It's that he can talk to media people and make it meaningful. Mm-hmm. I guess I'll use that term. Because when Galaxy's Edge opened up in Orlando, he talked about, we don't want the 4-hour experience. We don't want the 5-hour experience. That's not, he said himself, similarly to what you said, that's not conducive. That's not, you can't get sucked into the fiction that way. And in so many words, that's not a direct quote, but
right.
He while maybe it's an excuse, maybe it's not, but that logic to me is sound. Mm-hmm. Why would you want, especially where if you were expecting people to wait, you would have a lot more built-in infrastructure for merchandise, for like why have a peddler peddling some sort of quote junk for that's Star Wars merchandise, or there is the one right before you, not right before, but soon before you enter the main queue building, there is a refreshment stand where you can get a water, a Coke, a popcorn, whatever, just before you go in. And that's okay. That's great. That means that, and then anything past that is stuff that's external. And I haven't seen the line at its longest, but that's just because we're not at the park every day.
Right.
We tend to be there's a lot of switchbacks right outside of the Millennium Falcon ship, outside, but before you go in. But even then, that's like 120 minutes.
Yeah.
That's typically not terrible. And the only people who are going to be waiting that long are going to be trying to get into Oga's or trying to get standby into, oh god, my brain just ferreted the lightsaber Savi's workshop.
Yeah.
But the fact that I think all of the positivity from the, I'll say, standard media, not the Disney, not the Diz Twitter super fan boy or park fan boy and girl and non-gender specific groups.
You could just say fandom.
I'll say fandom, but I fanboy has a specific connotation.
Sure,
to it, and I was trying to capture that.
Yeah,
but yes, fandom from the general media and standard guest appeal. This all seems like it's on the up and up.
Yeah, and it saddens me that people are really trying to go out of their way to just crap over something, and a lot of these people haven't actually gone to the land to experience it themselves, which is so much why I wanted us to wait before we really talked about it much at all. I wanted us to physically go and experience it, and it was an emotional experience. It was more than I hoped that it could be. There's still things that could make it even better. Certain things that didn't make it off the final drawing board to be approved that had been talked about, but I still loved it, even not being able to, necessarily go and build a lightsaber because, hey, we don't have $400 to drop just on a visit for that. Or, $200 for a droid here or there. Just because you don't have all of those finances set aside doesn't mean that you can't enjoy the land. A lot of people have argued that it's just a huge cash grab. But Star Wars fans will also pay for this stuff.
Exactly. You go into Doc Ondar's, you see all of the stuff that's available, and it's higher, so it's not like super collector tier, it's not quite cosplayer, it's about cosplay tier, where it's solid material, maybe not what it's actually made of, but something to mimic the feeling. So like with the Jedi Temple Guard masks that I popped real hard over, because that's something that becomes important in Rebels, and Kanan ends up so like just those type of things where somebody who watches the movies doesn't see it. They go, oh, that's a cool looking mask. What's that? And then Doc Ondar's lives up to its name, because then everything in it has a story. Why do you have a baby Sarlacc? You know, what sort of stuff? Why is that? What is this? And then you have the super fans, or the super duper fans in there with their friends pointing out, oh, that. Then you have. It's a huge conversation, and Doc Ondar seems to be more of on its whole, a conversation piece, and something that tells the story of the entire galaxy. And as somebody, as you just say, as a couple that doesn't have a lot of disposable income, being able to just look in there and see that this history that we've bought into, quote unquote, bought into, that we history of a world that we adore, has become real, has a twinge of reality to it, is something tangible. There's quite a response. Now, I didn't cry.
I teared up.
My
FYI.
feeling to Galaxy's Edge is that it's just comfortable. It just feels right. It doesn't feel
natural.
It's something like, oh, all of this makes sense. This is something that I've always had and always will have, because we have been so deep in the paint when it comes to the Star Wars universe, where it was like, oh, of course there's an A-Wing out here. Of course there are First Order troopers going through. Learning the technology that runs them was remarkable, but also being able to walk by a garage, a pod garage, or just a speeder garage or whatever, and seeing the First Order soldiers looking for Vi, and Vi trying to hide out, and everybody just kind of going like, what's going on? And even if that's a teaser of the possibility of events occurring in the land, like in character events happening in the land, rad. All about it. All of whatever's coming next after Rise of the Resistance is going to be nothing but good. And when it comes to value stuff, the food is reasonable. You go to Docking Bay 7. Unfortunately, I don't know if you saw the news today, no more sporks.
Man, people, look, if you're listening to this, if you or anyone you know has gone out of their way to steal one of these precious sporks, you go return that right now. I don't care who you are or how special it is to you. That's not cool. You are ruining the fun for everybody. That is... Oh, it makes me so mad. Why? Why would you do that?
I will say this. The last meal that we had was difficult to eat with the spork. The first meal that we had, that I had, the salad, was amazing, great, wonderful. The spork was wonderful, blah blah blah. But then the ribs, with the Kadu ribs with the slaw and the whatever, pretty difficult to eat with just the spork. So
yeah, I liked it for the shrimp noodle dish.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it worked with that.
That
well.
was perfect for it.
But
too bad.
Docking Bay 7 has food that you look at and go, oh, I discern this to be this and to taste like this, but it doesn't. It tastes like space food. It's weird
and still delicious.
The roasted tip yip salad is my favorite thing. Yeah, I'll say is my favorite thing because it should just be a chicken salad, but it's not. The chicken doesn't quite taste like chicken. I know that all of the flavors together are remarkable. There's bits of like venous pumpkin. There's quinoa. There's it doesn't feel like a California roasted chicken salad, though technically that's exactly what it is. It's something that you could possibly go to maybe not a vegan, but to some sort of like all natural things. Like we've got roasted chicken and kale and quinoa. And there's some seasonal pumpkin in there, stuff like that. But remarkable. It's my favorite
Mark
thing. That
really loves it.
It was nuts. I think about it a lot. I was telling people at work, like, dude, this salad. And now people are like, word? But reasonably stuff starts at about $12-$13, goes up to like 18. That's theme park price.
Yeah.
That's not Star Wars theme park price. That's theme park price. And if you're they don't do annual pass holder stuff because
well, at least for Disney World annual passes with discounts in terms of food, they're not as common. I think that over in Disneyland, annual pass holders might be able to get a discount at Docking Bay 7.
I think it's because of the dining plan, isn't it? Like the dining plan offsets the discounts that the annual pass holders, whatever. Either way,
we get 20% off of merchandise. Though we don't on lightsabers.
No, we don't.
Darn it.
Ronto's Roasters is we had both the breakfast and the standard version. Remarkable. Remarkable.
Good.
To the point, so not just the food, not just the atmosphere, the whole thing. That another difference between Florida and California. Florida has the alcoholic milk, where
And it's not actual dairy milk, FYI. It is
nut-based.
non-dairy based, and anybody can drink it. Now, whether or not you'll like either of these milks is up for grabs.
It's acquired.
But I will say that the alcohol really helps transform the flavors.
I would say even just a little bit. It's so, or to say that the alcohol transforms them, but doesn't. It's not like, ooh, this is rum. Ooh, this is tequila.
No, it doesn't overpower it. It complements it. It takes it to the next level.
Yeah, it's both of the milks I think are great, and Mark Hamill recently came out and mentioned that compared to the milk that he had on set, both of these are a big improvement. So take it from the only person who has consumed both of these on screen. These ones are good. Everybody has an idea of what it could have tasted like, but you automatically pair it with milk, then okay, I think it's gonna have this type of consistency. Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
They're
I'm glad they
good.
didn't. I'm glad they didn't go like, okay, this is what it's going to taste like from this weird sea cow type thing. I was
Manatee
really
milk.
I was just like, please no, I don't want to taste what that tastes like. So they went in a good direction for it. I am pro green milk.
I was OG pro green milk.
I know you were, and at my first taste, I was like, eh. And here's the wild thing, folks. I don't like tequila, okay? Tequila and I do not mix. However, they put tequila in the green milk at the Orlando port, and I am all about it. I would totally have that again.
Because again, it's not transformative. It's additive, and it's nice.
Yeah,
it's just plain nice. We got to go to Oga's in California. We haven't gone to Orlando yet, but
and by the way, even if you don't get a reservation for Oga's, at least in Orlando, the Batuians have informed us that Batuians. They have informed us that standby is typically a pretty safe bet. And you can still probably get in. So don't stress about that.
Yeah, there's multiple ways. There's last minute cancellations, though I can't imagine why they would do that. But Oga's is
rad.
Yeah, that's the word I've been using a lot lately. But you have DJ Rex on the ones and twos.
Yeah.
The cocktails are very unique. I will say the first one that I had was a little bit of a disappointment because of that similar thing that I mentioned with the milk. I had a certain perception of how intense this drink was going to be, and I wonder if it's different in Florida because the alcohol restrictions are off. I ordered Jet Juice, and Jet Juice is sort of like how you'd see in old military things where it's like, they use this to grease the engines. Oh, and you see people have just this visceral reaction of how bitter or strong or burning or all sorts of stuff. Jet Juice is the Star Wars equivalent of that type of a thing, and it came in a little shot, so it made me think that it might be a little bit more intense, and that's why it's a smaller serving size. It was nice. It was kind of like a tiki shot. It was pretty smooth. There was a little bit of a bite, and I was like, that's unfortunate. But you got the fuzzy tauntaun.
Yeah, when I found out about the numbing foam that they use, I was like, gotta try this. That sounds pretty cool. And the numbing sensation, 100% accurate. The entire time I was giggling because I couldn't believe what a wild experience I was having with this drink. And the drink itself, quite delicious. And I would totally order it again. Of course, there's a lot of other drinks that I want to try. I actually, from the little sip that I had of your Jet Juice, I really like that. But I understand Mark was also just a little surprised that it came in a little shot glass that didn't seem to really come off of the page.
I thought it was going to be in like a tin can, or not like a tin cup, sort of something you would see out in the field in like a militaristic sense. But this could have been Oga's interpretation of maybe to their species. Maybe it tastes a little bit different, and they want it. I don't know. There's a story reason behind everything.
Yeah.
So you got the fuzzy tauntaun, and then I got the Dagobah something. I totally forgot the name. I'm gonna have to look it up, but I love it because it tastes like alcoholic tea. It's earthy. It's remarkable, and I just.
He was so happy. I really loved the bartending interaction. We actually had a wonderful server that made sure to come over personally to our table. We shared the booth that we were in with a few other parties.
If you're in a booth, it's parties of 8. It's like 8 to 10 people fit per booth, and it's nice.
Yeah, so, upon first response, I know that I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to share, this experience with strangers that I don't know. But honestly, it made it that much more fun. There were a couple of other women at the table who had also ordered a fuzzy tauntaun. And the fact that we were all experiencing this numbing agent together, and after being warned by the bartender, hey, just so that you know, this is going to happen when you try this, and please don't do anything besides drink the foam for health reasons and safety. And it was just kind of fun. Even there was also some people where there was a language barrier, but everybody was still having a good time. And I really recommend it. Like, just let your guard down and have fun. Like, it's a bar. I guess that's kind of what a bar is about, right?
Don't be perturbed. Don't be concerned about the possibility of not having your own table, unless there's like a germ thing. Like, unless you have like a big personal issue with space or this or that. But ultimately, you're sharing a booth with fellow travelers.
Yeah,
it's a good time. The drink in question was the Dagobah Slug Slinger, and it tastes like the earth. It's green. It looks like swamp water. And you know what? It probably tastes like it too. I adored it. I absolutely adored it. And the ride. So I highly recommend anybody that has a smartphone, which most of the people listening probably do, download the Disney Play app before you go to Batuu and bring up the data pad. And also bring a rechargeable battery for your phone, because it drains it like a moaf. Make sure to plug in and start doing missions, because you can earn credits. We don't know what the credits go towards yet. It could be just a whatever number, but it used to be you could use credits to maybe bring a price down at Doc Ondar's, or like they said that there was going to be a use for them, and right now you're just kind of collecting credits. And you get the most from doing Smuggler's Run. So highly recommend you do Smuggler's Run, but you are probably going to do that anyway. But make sure you have the data pad up and running before you go in, because it takes a minute to get through some of the tutorials.
Yeah. And just real quick before we jump fully away from the cantina, I just want to say DJ Rex has stolen my heart. I love him. He's adorable. He also has some PTSD from his prior job. So if you happen to catch him at the right time, he's going to get into a dark place in some flashbacks, and make sure to have your cameras ready, because it is really entertaining to watch.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
But yeah, Oga's, Milk, Ronto Wraps, Docking Bay 7, the food and entertainment options are pretty boss.
But piloting the Millennium Falcon is, without a doubt, that was the highlight for me. We both got to pilot for our first ride. I got to do up and down and light speed, and you got to do left to right. And pulling that lever to go into light speed was just like a little girl's dream come true for me. It It made me really happy, and I'm all for it.
Everybody needs to experience it. Like,
Yeah.
my dad, who showed me into this world of the Star Wars, when I started talking to him about it, he was like, "Well, we gotta go, we gotta go," and I can't imagine now. Like, I haven't actually given it a thought until right now. What the hell are my parents gonna do on the Millennium Falcon? Like, how? My dad should pilot.
Yeah.
I don't know what my mom's gonna do. Maybe turn on autopilot, just enjoy the ride. But the ride is phenomenal. The queue is phenomenal. Once you do the ride, if you're an annual pass holder and you haven't taken advantage of Single Rider yet, you should.
Yeah.
This system's a little flawed in the best possible way. We waited. So the queue isn't very well themed. It's sort of essentially just a cement hallway, but you get up some stairs. We waited about 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting on a ride with 2 people who waited in the line and 4 single riders, because the family groups, like, bunched up were like a 5 and a 5 and a 5. So it went way down the hallway to the point where it was just like, we need to get this bread. Let's get everybody in. Here are your boarding passes. Let's go. And of course, first or single rider experiences may vary, but there's going to be a lot of times where there will be 1 person missing. There will be 2 people, 3 people, and as we experienced, 4 people. And you can jumpstart them credits. You can get a little bit more practice in before people start to come to visit for the holidays.
And just stack up your cred, learn a little bit more. We got to try out some of the other positions as a result too.
Did you were an engineer?
Yeah, and
I was a gunner.
Yeah. So that's the one thing I haven't done yet. I haven't done gunner, and I guess then you haven't done engineer quite yet.
No, and gunner's difficult. I wish there's a little bit more control to it. I wish I had some sort of a reticle, but other than that, you just you just shoot where the cannon is, or where the ship is sort of pointed. So it's a little difficult. I wish there's a little bit more control, but they have to be simple. They have to be as simple as pushing a button or moving a lever, or else they won't be conducive to all age ranges.
Hey, I was really proud of myself for engineer. I got 100% on the first try.
Great.
And I was just like, how did that happen?
And for people who haven't been gunners, they do measure accuracy. So if you just hammer down on the button, you're going to lose a percentage for amount of supply, like lasers used. Like it's amount of energy used per laser blast, blah, blah, blah. Let's talk about this sweet Halcyon.
Yeah.
So the model was revealed at D23. We got more information on Sunday. And essentially, it's like a day at sea in space. For people who haven't gone on a cruise, what essentially happens is you show up at the port of call, you board, and then as you make your way to your destination, all of the events on the ship start becoming accessible to you. There's, depending on where you are, there's casinos, bars, pools, activities for the kids, activities for adults, dancing lessons, nighttime entertainment, all sorts of stuff like that. Now, imagine all of that in space. If you've somehow seen Fifth Element, but not Star Wars, it's kind of like that. But with the Halcyon, your destination, your vacation destination, is going to be Batuu. So Orlando is going to have 2 ports where you will be able to visit Batuu. And with this, you arrive at the terminal and you get into like a small, like a passenger transport, which will take you up into the atmosphere and actually board the Halcyon that way. And then from there, that's when you find your rooms, you check in. They used to say that there would be clothes, like you could fully immerse yourself in this world.
Yeah.
They would supply some clothes, but we're getting whatever. So there's going to be, they haven't revealed it yet because I'm sure they want to have people experience it naturally, but they've given some hints as to what the story of your experience is going to be. We find out that there's a bit of a first order presence. They are, in order to get a prisoner, a Wookiee that we are familiar with to Batuu. And it's high priority target. We're going to be on our own space, but you just give us this area of the ship. We're not going to bother anybody, but we got to get this asset around. All right, so already we're feeling that there's going to be some sort of resistance presence. We're going to need to break Chewie out before we make it to the planet's surface so that they can escape and the resistance can have their day. There's going to be secret Jedi stuff. You'll be able to utilize a training remote, similarly to how Luke did, the little spinning accuracy ball. They show it working somehow. We were also told that these lightsabers were going to be the coolest and most rad thing ever.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. You're going to be able to discover your own connection to the Force. You're going to, similarly, how you can go and to the, not the cockpit, not the captain's quarters, whatever, not the engine room. Either way, the engine room is going to have something in it, but the navigation bay, I'll just call it that.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Essentially to the command center. Yeah, let's call it command center. You'll be able to, they're going to show you how we drive the ship, and we have defense systems if we're ever going to need them. And so that there's going to be a team-based defense. So here's something that the Millennium Falcon can't, the Smuggler's Run can't do, and something that can be like the ultimate Mario Party-esque family ripper-aparter, which is your entire family is in this cockpit, is in this command center, and now we have to start. Who's the captain? Who's the this? Who's running defenses? Who's our gunner? Who's this? And now you have a possibility of, if you have adults, they're still going to be running around and like having fun and blah, blah, blah. Then if you have kids who see, whether it be the First Order or pirates or the Resistance wouldn't fire on the ship, but maybe some Memphis Nest. No, that's too far in the past. But some sort of raider, maybe a Mandalorian, maybe some sort
Conja Club.
So maybe it's Conja Club, some sort of attacking, group, just show up out of hyperspace. Kids are gonna freak out. All right, like like they're just gonna, I can just imagine kids going crazy, just running around the entire thing, hitting all of the buttons, and like the poor cast member just being like, wait, no, you can't do boop boop, and then just like all of this isn't Star Wars but red alert, like just everything hitting the fan because some like rich kid's birthday party decided that we wanted to do Star Wars for 2 days, but they're all 7 and don't get anything. Like,
and then they're just mad.
I'm just so mad. Because then they're going to be like, no, it's okay, we're all fine. Well, then why are we on red alert? I'm mad.
Like 3 of them are on the floor crying because they think it's real.
Like that's ultimately that's going to be very entertaining. Like already just coming up with this idea, it's like you have to think of these extremes. How are these things going to work? Either way, I think that sort of team building, like this in itself, even though they're like story element, that's a cruise ship activity, because when you go to a nightclub and you're all sitting at a thing and it's like, all right, who's got a purse? All right, I need a comb. The dumb game where you're searching through the thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? That's right. You were pretty hazy for that cruise that we went on. So
it was my 21st birthday.
There's a common cruise ship game, usually run by like one of the in-house comedians or whatever, where you're trying to find like who's got a thing, and whoever pulls it out first gets a point or whatever.
Oh, that's like a bridal shower game.
Yeah, but either way, it's a team working together to achieve a goal, and it gets hyper competitive. Now imagine that scenario with spaceships. That's what I'm trying to get across. And then you add children into it. Terrifying. But
I wonder how big each group is going to be for all of this.
So in this photo, it looks like a pretty open bay, but it looks like there's one big wall, sort of like how you see in all of the rebel bases with like the star maps on it. There is a panel facing the window where you see, oh my god, you see TIE fighters and X-wings in a major dogfight. I see at least 5 X-wings and 1 TIE fighter, maybe more. But I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 stations across that wall. This is concept art, we will say.
Yeah.
And then I also see, similarly to, so at the Battle of, I want to say Yavin. Other people say Yavin. I say Yavin. Alex. He's not even
it's
listening.
Yavin.
Yeah, it's Yavin 4. So where they're all looking down into that little screen, but it's like sunken in.
Yeah.
It looks like there's at least 2, maybe 3 of those with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, there's a little Twi'lek girl. Yeah, it looks like there's 3. So like it's in this picture like 30 to 40 people, not including cast members. Maybe and it looks like there's 1, 2, 3 cast members, so 30 to 35 people per at least per experience. We don't know how many.
You went kind of into a Kermit register just there.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. But that was more Ernie.
Yeah.
But it looks like this experience, like who knows how many of these actual bays there are going to be.
Yeah.
You know, the way that they present it, it's all going to be one ship. It's going to be one floor plan, but there could be a situation similarly to Smuggler's Run where, oh, there's one cockpit. Or is there?
Is there?
But ultimately, it's a 2-day long storytelling exercise. Exercising, like it's one of those things where your first day is in space, the next day you arrive on Batuu, and then you presumably spend the day in Batuu, Hollywood Studios, whatever, and then you get back in the Halcyon and you go back home. So who knows what the ride back to port, quote unquote, is going to be like. But it's interesting. It seems like a little bit more than just a cruise with an itinerary. Like, what if you don't want to do any of that stuff? What if I just want to hang out in my room and look at space? What happens?
Yeah, I don't know.
You'd probably be really mad because we'd spend a lot of money on that trip. And you're like, no, I just want to stay in my room.
I just want to take a nap.
I want to sleep. Let me take a nap. If there are IG series droids on that ship, I'm following them everywhere. But we didn't really necessarily find out anything about price. It seems like it's only 2-day itineraries. The rumor is that it's going to be in the thousands.
Yeah.
But that includes
like your space outfits
and your food. I think.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a cruise where it's
all inclusive.
You get your tickets on the boat include the ship include your meals, include maybe you have to get like a soda pass or whatever. But then I wonder if you get some sort of a stipend for Batuu, or if it's because because you don't necessarily get that unless you go.
That's when the credits come in.
Unless you go to like a partnered restaurant with the cruise line. Then that's when you would get like a discount or whatever. Let's charge you back to the room or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So who knows? That's the most that we've gotten so far. It looks rad, but it's another one of those things of who's going to go? Because that's really, really expensive.
So expensive. We want to go.
Oh, who doesn't want to go?
I mean, I'm pretty sure like this is not something that sounds remotely like any casual visitor would necessarily want to do if they want to take things easy. Like, if you're going to do this, you're going all out. You are committing to the world, and you are committing your energy, your focus, and your time. So that's a specific section of fandom, I suppose, and just a personality type, I would say. Oh gosh, imagine like all of the families where it's like there's maybe 65% of the group is all in, but they've dragged the other family members along, and they're just like, oh, I don't want to do this. That's gonna be rough. But I mean, also it's going to be really expensive. So like, if someone's going to actually pay to do this, like they know that it's going to be a big deal and a different experience. It is the full immersive next step in themed entertainment.
And on top of that, there's really, and I'll ask you this, is there anything that you're expecting that isn't something that would, this experience already sounds remarkable.
Sure.
But is there something that would take it over the edge for you? Is there something that would make it that much more like, oh my God, we're in Star Wars? Like, what would it be?
It would be a droid coming to get me from my room and tell me we have to go through a series of beeps.
Or bartender R2. Not specifically
Oh
R2D2,
my God.
but if there is a bartender
I'd be
R2
so
droid with
happy.
just a little booze tray on it.
No, but I do literally want R2D2 to come to my room with C-3PO and be like, we have to go now.
Something like that. It would have to be a message over the thing, because if you have a droid actually come to the door.
Oh my
and
gosh,
pop
R2D2 just like launches a hologram, and it's like,
and it's the captain of the ship.
Yeah.
Something like that. Or it's Chewie, or it's Rey saying, hey.
And then I would cry of happiness.
It's like, what? Why are you crying? We have to go. We have to go.
I'm so emotional, 3PO. I don't know if I can do it.
So for me, it's something that I was really hoping for Galaxy's Edge, and I hope that there's still time to do it. It's the other non-human humanoid species. And it's a little thing here and there. And I can imagine that they have it in the they did have it in the budget to have one or two people.
Yeah.
To just be a Zabrak or a Nemoidian or whatever. You put a mask and just paint it on real good. And some sort of alien race just being, and though in the Florida heat, I would hope that it's an indoor position,
right,
as opposed to an outdoor position. But maybe the last person, one of the last folks to help you with Hondo is a Zabrak or whatever. And just that, it's that tiny extra little thing. And there's a lot of different races that are seen and species that are seen in all of this concept art. And I hope that can come to fruition too, because it's one of the things with the first Star Wars film is like, oh, they're all white British people. That's the galaxy. No. Then we start to see a little bit more. So that's my main hope. It's gonna be good. Galaxy's Edge is good. It's gonna keep getting better. Rise of the Resistance is gonna open up. Stuff's gonna get crazy. I will say, I think we'll both say, I think you'll agree with me here, is that the coming to Batuu through the Orlando port, a lot more fans, like outdoor fans. Which just
more
helps
coolants.
A lot more, what is it? Cooling droids, fan droids. Somebody gave it a name, but either way, that's a step up that we tend to have here.
I have heard some people complain about the length of the transition entering into Galaxy's Edge from the Disneyland port, and I'll be honest, I loved the slow transition and just starting to hear the music and the sounds. Like, that got me really, really emotional. Whereas in the Orlando port, it's like, wham, you're right there. Which isn't necessarily problematic for me. You know, people are going to complain one way or the other. I think both have merit. And it's interesting to see just these very, very slight adjustments between ports on how the land ends up presenting itself to you, and the little differences that you see here and there. I am glad only for the fact that no Batuans have to suffer in the sweltering heat under a lot of extra latex than they would need to as walk-around characters.
But that's when the costume technology can advance to a place where maybe it's a little bit more intuitive. Maybe it's a lot different. Like
the thing is, though, like, face makeup is truly an art, and it's rough, and it's very difficult to stay cool and comfortable with all of that, and it takes hours to put on. So comparing that and then knowing, like, Florida's humidity, for example, stuff's going to start to try and come off.
So one of the things that Disney tends to do is accentuate the positives and hide the negatives.
Yeah.
I can imagine them trying it out and them going, "Oh, this won't work."
Yeah.
Or even like the glue or the what was it called? That we would use for
Spirit gum
just melting and instantly everything just starting to come down your face like your clay face. But regardless, it's a wonderful experience.
It's really
Star Wars
fantastic.
fan or not, I'm really excited for my parents because they are both of those things. My dad is a big Star Wars fan from back in the day, and there's going to be plenty of stuff. Excuse me. There has one per episode. There has to be when he walks through the marketplace, he's going to see the little Loth cat. Not you didn't necessarily know what a Loth cat was.
No, but it was adorable.
And I still consider you a huge Star Wars fan. So it's one of those things where my dad, who grew up, watched all of the films religiously. We watched them with them all the time. We watch them together anytime they're on TV. It's one of those things where he's still going to be able to learn and experience all of these new things in Star Wars that he hasn't been able to experience, whether it be a TV show, a book, or what have you. And then there's my mother, who is a huge theme parks fan. She kind of knows who Darth Vader is. Like, she knows who Darth Vader is because he's become this public figure that represents the brand.
I think she said that she watched A New Hope and that was kind of it.
I think you're exactly right. I think that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited for both of those extremes, so that, like, my dad's going to be there for the heart, like feeling the Star Wars, and my mom's going to be there for the mind of seeing how they transform this theme park space into something as transformative as it is. And I'm beyond it's what, like, anytime I call my parents, you should call your parents, kids. Anytime I call and talk to my mom, I was like, man, I can't wait for you guys to get out here. And one, to see my parents,
right?
But two, Batuu.
I wonder if that was the gag the whole time.
I don't think so.
By the way, Batuu, we are building Batuu.
But I don't know.
I don't know.
The name came after they announced it.
Yeah.
So maybe, who knows?
Maybe.
Pablo Hidalgo, I want inside your brain. You're such a magical human being. But we went over our time.
As we always do.
We always do. I like, you try to set low, and then I was like, all right, we're 15 minutes over when I should have called half. Great. But thank you so much for coming with us on this journey to Batuu and galaxies beyond here on the Party of Two podcast. Andrea, we've been kind of busy. We've been doing some stuff lately.
Yeah. So I'm really scared about Figment's future at Epcot. Just kind of summarizing things shortly. And I want the Dreamfinder back. And with Epcot's drastic changes that are coming in celebration of its 40th anniversary within the next couple of years, it is expected that something is going to happen to the Imagination Pavilion. I am trying to start a movement for people to personally write letters to Bob Chapek, Robert Weiss, and George Kalogridis.
Kalogridis. He's very Greek.
Yeah. And message them personally, saying why I want to keep Figment around, why I'd like to see Dreamfinder back, and get something reminiscent of the original Journey into Imagination back into the Imagination Pavilion. And you can find all of that information and join the movement of the Dreamfinder and Figment Restoration Society on online. And just do a little Google search. You'll find it.
We'll put the link down below in the description.
Yeah.
It's going to be in. We'll put it in your in your Twitter bio. We'll put it in our Twitter. The team Twitter bio. We'll make sure that you can find the link.
And just in general, to keep up with me on social media, I am Dole Whip Drea on Instagram and on Twitter.
And you can find me at Mark B. Donica on Instagram and Twitter. I've been doing a lot of Instagram stories. Some are weird, some are not. I'm just trying to get a rhythm down and being a reliable Instagram person. I don't post a lot because I post every now and again, but I use the story for really dumb, weird stuff, and I think it's pretty funny. But then again, that's just me. If you want to keep an eye on any of the stuff that I'm working on, make sure to follow me at those. Make sure to, I want to put this plug in earlier in the show. Make sure to check out our friends at nerdmountainshop.com for all of your nerd goodness. They do apparel, stickers, pins, great stuff. They put out new material fairly frequently, so you can follow them on Instagram too, Nerd Mountain Shop. nerdmountainshop.com. And of course, follow us here at anchor.fm/party-of-2. If you're listening on podcasts, we have a YouTube channel. If you're watching us or listening to us on YouTube, we have a podcast channel. Whatever's the easiest way for you, we just want to hear from you. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Leave comments if you can. Leave us voice messages on Anchor. We just want to hear from you. But we thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Party of Two podcast. Until next time, till the spires on the next ride.